Hello everyone and Merry Christmas. This video is a little different when compared to my usual ADMIS and ADMISI commentaries. You see, normally I'd video what will be my podcast broadcast to the joint ADMIS and ADMISI market analyst weekly commentary each Wednesday for you to see. However, as this year both Christmas Day and New Year's Day fall on a Wednesday, we would not be broadcasting and therefore no video. However, there has been enough interesting market action this past week that I felt in myself obliged to share my thoughts on some of the interesting weekly patterns I have seen this past week. So here goes. I think this past week's weekly patterns could be placed into three categories, with some very interesting ones outside these categories as well. The first category is the stock indexes, and we had weekly key reversals down last week in the following three stock indexes. The Felix Semiconductor Index. In this case, it was an immediate countering weekly key reversal down. The NASDAQ 100 Index and the NASDAQ Composite Index. None of these have seen a follow-on lower this week, and the Felix Semiconductor Index is some distance above last Friday's close. However, all are still within last week's range, so keep an eye on these ones. The second category is crypto. Last week saw a weekly key reversal down in Ethereum and in Bitcoin. This week we have seen some small follow-on lower to last week's bearish patterns, but it has been limited as prices have still been maintained within last week's range. The third category is grains, specifically the wheat markets, as we have seen weekly key reversals down last week in Chicago wheat futures, if only just. In Kansas City wheat futures, and in London on the ICE UK feed wheat futures. Now, in Chicago wheat futures, there has been a limited follow-on lower of sorts. And in Kansas City, well, there hasn't been any follow-on lower, though we are still within last week's range. But here in London feed wheat, we have seen a dramatic move lower on my daily continuous chart. Enough to finally achieve a potential target below, target X at 169.90. This was for a move down from the island top the market formed back in early to mid-October. Now, I gather this price action was a one lot, potentially a one lot, that traded in error, possibly. But I will still take that price action as justification of the potential of target X at 169.90. Okay, so that covers the three main categories of interesting market actions that I saw last week. What else did we have that was interesting? Well, in the currencies, we had weekly key reversals up last week in US dollar Norwegian krona and US dollar Swedish krona. Both of these have seen subsequent follow-on moves higher, but neither have been much to write home about, as they are still within last week's range. But I would suggest keeping an eye on those two. We also saw a weekly key reversal down in US dollar Mexican peso, which has this week so far seen a reactionary move back up, though once again within last week's range. Then there is the final one, and is a really interesting one to me, perhaps the most interesting. It's most interesting on many levels. It is a weekly key reversal up, indeed an immediate countering weekly key reversal up in Chicago soybean meal futures. Now, why would I think this is an interesting one, apart from the fact that last week's weekly key reversal down countered the previous week's weekly key reversal up? Well, you see, all this year I've been going on and on about what happened this time back in December 2023, when I spotted that Chicago soybean meal futures were about to make that rarest of patterns, an annual key reversal down for 2023. This subsequently happened, and as I've said so many times before and since, all things should be seen in the shadow of this pattern. And for 2024, the annual bearish pattern has dominated the market. So much so that I thought last Friday, when compiling my commentary, that we would seemingly have a compound weekly key reversal down. That's when a weekly key reversal down is swallowed by an even larger weekly key reversal. That happens the following week. Well, this did not happen this time, so immediately such action got my attention. Now this week we have seen the start of a follow-on higher on Monday, but it soon fizzled out and we are back within the main body of last week's action. But that is not all, as this week's action has set up the stage for Chicago soybean meal futures to form a monthly key reversal for December. Thus, if we close on Tuesday, the 31st of December, either over 301.30 or under 291.90, then we'll be on. Anything in between would have a lesser outside month pattern. Right now, well, we are looking at a lesser outside month pattern, but there are some pretty sparse and illiquid days ahead, so I'd pay special attention to where we may end up next Tuesday night, New Year's Eve itself. As always, I'm happy to answer any direct questions with anyone who is interested with that. I'll finish this section from London, and I hope that you found these comments useful.
Thank you for listening. This weekly broadcast gives the essential market patterns and consequences. Please be aware of the risk disclaimer posted both at the front and at the back of this broadcast. Copyright is Eddie Topic and ADM Investor Service International Limited. And here comes the final important bit.